Ikhwani fillah, tonight inshallah we shall begin a study of the book of Siyam, the fiqh related to the rulings of fasting. Question, for example, Ikhwani fillah, you're in a country where the sun is there for 24 hours a day. You're in a country where the sun is there 24 hours a day. There's no night. It is a full day, 24 hours. What do you do in such a situation as a Muslim? Second question. You're on a plane, maybe here at the airport of Jomo Kenyatta, for example, in Nairobi. You break your fast at 6:40. Your plane takes off at that exact time. Then when you've reached altitude, you can still see the sun. What do you do therein? Do you continue with the fasting, or did you break your fast before the time? Have you understood the issue? Or in the tallest building in the world, you go to Burj Al Khalifa. You are at the bottom floor. The people at the bottom of the floor or the ground floor, they break their fast at 6:30 p.m. The people at the top floor, will they also break their fast at 6:30 p.m. or a little bit later on? So there's some interesting rulings regarding the book of Siyam. Now some you know and some we shall look at inshallah. Ikhwani fillah, we're entering the month of Siyam in 2 weeks or so, 2.5 weeks or so. The 10th of March will be the fast of this year inshallah. So what is this Siyam? What is Siyam in the Arabic language and as an Islamic term? I really hope next time you come with a book and you write notes, or you get the notes from the recording, inshallah. Siyam, ikhwani fillah, in the Arabic language means al-imsak. It means to prevent yourself from something. Al-imsak, to hold off. Siyam in the Arabic language means al-imsak, to hold off something or prevent or refuse yourself something. As an Islamic term, when the Muslims are saying, I am performing this act of worship of Siyam, they mean the following. At-ta'abbud lillahi azza wa jal, to worship Allah azza wa jal. بالإمساك عن المفطرات من طلوع الفجر الثاني إلى غروب الشمس. الإمساك عن المفطرات من طلوع الفجر الثاني إلى غروب الشمس. The scholars, they say, is to worship Allah azza wa jal by keeping away from the things that break your fast or invalidate your fast from the time the second Fajr appears until the sun sets. We shall look at all these terms, what they mean, inshallah. So, ikhwani fillah, that is the meaning of Siyam in the Arabic language and as an Islamic term. Ikhwani fillah, Siyam is of two types. I wish I had a board here, but just picture this. Siyam is of two types. It's of two types. The first type, you're commanded to do it, and the second Siyam, you're prohibited from doing it. Are you together so far with the tree diagram? There's a Siyam that you're commanded to do, and there's a Siyam that you're prohibited from doing. Are you together? The one that you're commanded to do can be broken down into two also. There's a Siyam that is obligatory, you're commanded, and that command is that of obligation. And there's a Siyam, the command is that of voluntary, it's a Sunnah. Are you together? So you're commanded to Siyam. There's a Siyam that is commanded and prohibited. This one that is commanded can be divided into two again. One that is obligatory and one that is voluntary. Are we together so far? Type. The one that is obligatory can also be divided into two again. The one that is obligatory can also be divided into two again. Can be divided into a Siyam that is obligatory because of the Sharia. The Sharia has made it wajib. Are you together? And that is the fast of the month of Ramadan. That is only fast that has been made obligatory by the Sharia. And there's a fast that's obligatory because of your actions as a person who is a Muslim. For example, nadhr. You say, oh Allah, if I get this contract, I'm going to fast 3 days or 5 days. If my child gets well, I'm going to fast 3 days, 5 days, 10 days. That is called nadhr. The obligation is not from Allah. The obligation you have kept upon yourself, you must fulfill it. And there's another siyam that is also obligatory, and that is kafara. The siyam whereby you pay a penalty because of acts that have come from you. Ramadan, you're told not to sleep with your wife, then you go do your stories. You fast 2 months consecutively. That is kafara. Allah has not made obligatory for you to fast 2 months. It is your actions that have made it obligatory on you. So siyam, ikhwani fillah, I repeat again. It is either prohibited or obligatory. The one that is obligatory can be divided into two. Obligatory, it's prohibited or it's commanded. The one that's commanded is either obligatory or voluntary. The one that is obligatory is either obligatory because of the Sharia or obligatory because of your actions. Are we together so far? Voluntary can also be divided into two. There is the voluntary fast that is time specific. There is the voluntary fast that is time specific. E.g., the days of Shawwal. You can't say, I'm going to fast my days of Shawwal in Dhul Qa'dah or in Dhul Hijjah or in Muharram. The days of Shawwal are specific to the month of Shawwal. The day of Arafah. You can't just say, I'm going to fast my Arafah in Muharram. Or the days of Ashura, the 9th and the 10th, you fast. It is time specific. Monday and Thursday is time specific. You can't say, I didn't fast my fast of Monday, I'm going to fast on Tuesdays. Or my fast of Thursdays, I'm going to fast on Saturdays. No. So there is a siyam that's voluntary, yes, but it is time specific. It has a particular time. And there's a siyam that is not time specific. You can fast anytime. You can fast anytime. You can fast Tuesdays. There's no problem with fasting Tuesdays. You can fast other days of the week, inshallah. Other days we'll talk about later. Saturday and such we'll talk about it later. So we finished the Sawm that is commanded by the Sharia. There is the obligatory part, which is divided into two. Obligatory because of Sharia, which is the month of Ramadan. And there is obligatory because of your actions, you as a Muslim. That is example, the nadhr and the kafar and so on. Right together? And there is voluntary. Voluntary can be divided into two. Voluntary that is specific to time specific, and voluntary that is not connected to time. Also the siyam that is prohibited can be divided into two. There's one that is prohibition makes it haram for you to fast. And there's one that prohibition makes it disliked for you to fast. Makruh. There is the one that is haram completely, you cannot fast, and the one that is makruh. Which Sawm is haram for you to fast? Naam. Question. Which Sawm is haram for you to fast? No? Fridays? No, you can fast Fridays. If you're fasting, for example, the Sawm of Nabillahi Dawood, definitely it will fall. Nabillahi Dawood used to fast one day and live one day. So you can fast a Friday, then a Sunday, then a Tuesday, then a Thursday, then a Saturday, then a Monday. It will definitely fall on a Friday. Fasting the two Eids. The Muslims are busy celebrating Eid and you're there fasting. That is haram for you to fast the days of Eid. Then there's a Sawm that is disliked for you to fast. Number one, the Sawm that is known as Yawm Shak. This month of Sha'ban has 29 days or 30 days. You have to have a separation between Ramadan and Sha'ban in terms of fasting. Your Sawm of Sha'ban cannot reach and connect into Ramadan. Are you together? There has to be a day you're not allowed to fast, and that is the day of Shak. You don't know is today Sha'ban or is today Ramadan. You're doubtful. The last day, you should not fast that day. Yawm Shak. It is disliked for you to fast that day. Also, Al-Wisal. You say, I'm going to fast 3 days, 4 days without eating iftar or suhoor, without taking anything. This is only allowed for the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Allah gave him that strength. But for you as a Muslim, the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam has told you, Ajjilu bil fitr. You should rush to perform the iftar, and you should delay your suhoor. So you're not allowed to fast, even if you're on a diet. You don't say, diet is not Ramadan. Ramadan is for ibadah, it's not for diet. You don't say, I'm going to fast Ramadan, I'm not going to eat. My fast, I'll eat only on Fridays, then I'll lose 10 kgs. Don't mix ibadah and your diet. Type. What is the reason, or what is the wisdom behind fasting the month of fasting? Fasting has a lot of benefits. If you look at the Quran, the first command that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given for us in the Mus'haf, He says, يَا أَيُّهَا النَّاسُ اعْبُدُوا رَبَّكُمُ الَّذِي خَلَقَكُمْ وَالَّذِينَ مِنْ قَبْلِكُمْ لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ. Oh, you people, worship your Lord, the one who created you, and the one who created before you, so that you may gain taqwa. Are you together? Allah has created you for the one purpose of worship. وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. The only reason that Allah has created you, human being, and you jinn, some of you are attending the class or from elsewhere, is to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the purpose of this worship is to gain taqwa. And from amongst the ibadah that you all know, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا كُتِبَ عَلَيْكُمُ الصِّيَامُ كَمَا كُتِبَ عَلَى الَّذِينَ مِنْ قَبْلِكُمْ لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ. Oh, you who have believed, Psalm has been decreed upon you, as it was decreed to the ummahs before you, so that you may gain taqwa. So from the wisdom of fasting, it gives you taqwa. Also, it keeps you away from the hellfire. The Prophet ﷺ, he says, "Man sama yawman fi sabilillah ba'ada wajhahu 'anil nari 70 kharifa." Says whoever fasts one day for the sake of Allah Azza wa Jal, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will keep them from the hellfire a distance of 70 years or more. There are many other benefits of siyam. Then the scholar I'm reading from encyclopedia, it's called Durar. He says, the second issue, he says, what are the pillars of fasting? What are the pillars of fasting? He says the first pillar is you have to keep away from everything that breaks your fast. Al-imsaku anil mufattirat. He says you have to keep away from food, from drink, and from sexual relations with your wife. And this is something that there's no khilaf amongst the Muslims. Eating, drinking, and sexual relations. These are pillars that the ibadah, if they're not present, the ibadah will not be accepted. So you must keep away from these things. The second thing, you have to keep it within the time frame that has been kept for fasting. When does the fast begin? It says, min dukhul al-fajr thani. From the time the second fajr appears, when the muaddin gives the second adhan, until the sun sets. That is the time period for fast. Are you together? Not what they do in these timetables, whereby they tell you, the adhan is 5:15, but you stop eating at 5 o'clock, just to be safe. That is a bid'ah, as mentioned by Ibn Hajar in Fath al-Bari. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given you that you stop eating when the second fajr appears. When the adhan is given for fajr prayer, the second adhan. So the muaddin has to be accurate with his adhan. So don't follow these timetables where they keep 10 minutes or 15 minutes and you stop because of the timetable. No, follow the adhan if it is a trustworthy mosque. And this time continues until the sun sets. So from the time the second fajr enters until the sun sets, you should not eat, you should not drink, you should not have any sexual relations with your wife. Are you together? Fajr, ikhwani fillah, for benefit, is of two types. There's the true fajr and the false fajr. The sun rises from the north. I'm just testing people are sleeping. The sun sets it rises from the east. East is that side. Best now mosque, the east is that side. The west is there. So the sun comes from the east to the west. Are you together? So in the morning, you look towards the east. Are you together? If you see a light covering from the east towards the west, a vertical line, that is not the time for Fajr yet. That's called the false Fajr. And the evidence for this is that this light disappears and darkness comes back again. This is called the false Fajr. The true Fajr is what appears. You see, that's east, that's west, this is north, that is south. So you'll see a light that covers the horizon from the south towards the north. And this light continues increasing. That is known as the true Fajr. That is when you start your fast. Why is this beneficial to you? Will you always be near a mosque? You know, people are very comfortable with this life. Will you always be near a mosque? One day you'll find yourself in the desert over there. Then you'll be like, why is this muaddin not giving adhan? Why is the time, the up? There's the charger in the desert. You'll find a charger in the desert. No. You have to know the time of Salah based on the sun. Based on the sun. When the sun reaches the middle of the sky, it's called the zenith. If it just passes it a little bit and the shadow starts increasing, that's the time Dhuhr has started, and so on and so forth. You have to know the time of prayers. So that's the time the true Fajr comes, which is the light coming from the south to the north. This time is when you should stop eating completely. What are the conditions for you to be... There are many other issues here, I forgot. Now, question. It says, "Man tala alayhi al-fajr, wa fi fami ta'am." I don't understand how this can happen. Someone wakes up at the time of Fajr. Anytime, 5:30, 5:40, maybe 20 minutes after even the adhan, 5 minutes after the adhan. Then he has food from last night in his mouth. He slept with food in his mouth. Haven't you seen the issue? What should you do that with food? He has to spit it out. It's wajib for him to spit it out because the time of obligation of the fast has already begun. Are you together? So if someone finds themselves, I don't know how that will happen, with some food or drink in their mouth, they have to spit it out. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَكُلُوا وَاشْرَبُوا حَتَّى يَتَبَيَّنَ لَكُمُ الْخَيْطُ الْأَبْيَضُ مِنَ الْخَيْطِ الْأَسْوَدِ مِنَ الْفَجْرِ ثُمَّ أَتِمُّوا الصِّيَامَ إِلَى اللَّيْلِ. طيب. When does the time end? We said with the sun setting. The sun setting is the east. It has to disappear completely towards the east. A question that comes, is the issue of the aeroplane. When you're on the ground or in the air, your time is not the same. Are you together? So a person, for example, at the bottom of Burj Al Khalifa, and a person on the top floor, they will not have their fast the same. Because they have to look at, they can see the sun. How are you going to say, I'm breaking my fast because us in Dubai, our fast ends at 5:30 or 6:30, yet you can still see the sun in the top floors of Burj Al Khalifa. Are you together? So you follow the sun or you follow the time? Allah says, until Fatimu Siyama ila al-layl, until the night when the sun has set. So when you're on the top floor, you have to wait a short time for the sun to set. This is what the scholars have mentioned. It's not something that is me, I'm inventing. The second issue, the aeroplane issue also. You're on a flight, you're leaving the airport at 6:45. 6:45, the adhan has been given, you've taken your dates, you've taken your water, you've made your dua, mashallah. The plane takes off. When you've already reached altitude, you can still see the sun. Because the sun sets later, the higher you go. It's a new issue. What do? Have you understood the question? There's nothing you've done. You've already broken your fast. Move on with life. You would be commanded or you would be asked to pay that day. Are you together? When you broke your fast in a correct manner with the time had reached already. Are you together? The next issue, why are you looking confused? Do you have understood? Type. When someone is on a plane, when you're flying, you're fasting, what time should you take into account? You're flying from South Africa, for example, to Cairo. You're flying. What time should you break your fast? Will you break your fast the time of Botswana or the time of Tanzania or the time of Nairobi or the time of the area you're in? What time will you break your fast? Break the fast. Follow the most correct that you can do. The most correct is the sun. If you can see there's no sun, break your fast. Or break the fast, just add a few minutes extra on the time of the country they're on flying. Are you together with the answer? He says, whoever is flying with a plane and they're fasting, then they see, because they notice based on the watch or the TV or any other form of information that the country next to it, they have already broken their fast. But he sees the sun, they should not break their fast until they're sure that the sun has set. And this is the opinion of Abdul Razzaq al-Afifi and Ibn Baz and Ibn Uthaymeen. Another question comes, you're in a country whereby the fast of Ramadan is 23 hours. The day is 23 hours, the night is 1 hour. Or the day is 22 hours, the night is 2 hours. Or the day is 21 hours, the night is 3 hours. Are you together? What do you do in such a country? You follow the sun type. Correct. Even if it's very long, 22 hours, you still have to fast those 22 hours. There's no running away from it. There's no running away from it. I know some people these days, this is an interesting issue that needs to be researched. Find some people, Ramadan is coming. Which country has the shortest Ramadan in the world? Let's go to that country. That country has only 4 hours Ramadan, 5 hours Ramadan. We fly to that country. And then later on you want reward from Allah Azza wa Jalla when you're playing games with the religion. Do I hit again the nail? With the issue of Taraweeh, which mosque has the shortest Taraweeh? Which mosque has the shortest Taraweeh? That mosque only prays 5 pages. This mosque is Salam, Juz. No one prays Juz these days in Nairobi. They're so old men. Now the question you ask yourself, is old men unique to our times, or there used to be old men 20 years ago? There were no old men 20 years ago. They were there or they were not there? 20 years ago we used to pray tahajjud how many juz? We used to pray 3 juz. We finished tahajjud in 10 days. Dare you try right now in a mosque in Nairobi to pray 3 juz in tahajjud? Dare you delay the people in sujood and ruku'? You'll see the complaints people come here bring forth to the imam. I wonder sometimes, why do you complain to the imam? Person can just go to a different mosque. Why are you coming to control? Then everyone wants the mosque, like it's a restaurant, everyone wants to control the mosque. Open the windows. Our group is saying, don't open the windows. Imam, make the salah short. Imam, make the salah long. Imam, make the ruku long. No, make the ruku short. Now, question. The Prophet ﷺ says, إِنَّمَا جُعِلَ الْإِمَامِ لِيُتَمَّ بِهِ. The imam is the one that should be followed. But the situation comes in mosques that the imam has to, how is it? This wazis are making noise. These elders, please go to those mosques. That young man, go to that other mosque. Don't come bring your, it's just polite. It's etiquette, you know. And you have not gotten the opinion of this 500, 1,000 people who are praying in the mosque. You want to force your opinion. It's not fair. The imam is there for a reason. In Salah, who does the ruku' first? Who says takbir, you or the imam? So you're following your takbir or you're following the takbir of the imam? So follow the imam. If he's making the ruku' long today, alhamdulillah. He makes the sujood long, alhamdulillah. I'm going to make a lot of dua to Allah Azza wa Jal. What's the issue? There's no issue, khani fillah. So that's the next issue, khani fillah. Then the next issue, khani fillah, is the issue of a country where it is 24 hours day or 24 hours night. There are some countries in the North Pole, for example, sometimes find a place in maybe like Finland or those upper areas, Greenland or something, 24 hours it's day or 24 hours it is night. What happens in this situation? They should fast for 24 hours, for 30 days. The iftar will be on the suhoor will be on day 1 of Ramadan. The iftar will be day 30 of Ramadan. Correct? Is that okay? Is that possible? They will die. It's 30 days sunlight, so what do? They should fast day 1, they take their suhoor, they take the biggest suhoor in the world, then they wait for 30 days for the iftar. Will that work? Because the sun is not going anywhere. What do you do? And what is the evidence? Now? You follow the timings of Salah, but where are those timings for Salah coming from? Also, the Salah is also the same issue. Yes, you take from the country that is neighboring, that has a distinct day and night. That has a distinct day and night. So in Greenland, you look, the closest country next to you that has a day and night is maybe Norway or Finland or something. Those guys are fasting 22 hours. You fast like them, 22 hours. The evidence for this, is when the Masih al-Dajjal, he appears, he'll be on this earth for 40 days. The first day is equivalent to 1 year. The second day is equivalent to 1 month. The third day is equivalent to 1 week. And the other 37 days are like our days. The Sahaba asked, "Oh Prophet, this day that is like 1 year, is it sufficient for us to pray 5 salahs for that day?" He says, "No. فَقْدُرُ لَهُ قَدْرَهُ." You have to try measuring the time of salah. You know, Dhuhr was just 3 hours ago. Now I can pray Asr. Now I can pray Maghrib. Now I can pray Isha. That is the fitna of the Masih al-Dajjal. The first day is equivalent to 1 year. He'll enter every village and every town. So the Prophet ﷺ says, you try measuring to the best of your capability. And the best of capability is checking the neighboring country that has a distinct day or night, or checking the previous period, when that time of Jidal comes, if Salah yesterday was at 1 p.m., you continue even today, the watches will be working. So you still pray your Dhuhr at 1 p.m. when 24 hours it passes. The next issue, Ikhwan Fillah, and the final issue we'll be taking, is what are the conditions for Siyam? The Siyam has many conditions. The very first important condition, Ikhwan Fillah, is you have to be upon the religion of Islam. It's not accepted from non-Muslims. But they shall be punished for leaving Islam and for leaving everything related to Islam. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, مَا سَلَكَكُمْ فِي سَقَرْ قَالُوا لَمْ نَكُ مِنَ الْمُسَلِّينَ وَلَمْ نَكُ نُطْعِمُ الْمِسْكِينَ وَكُنَّا نَخُوضُ مَعَ الْخَائِضِينَ وَكُنَّا نُكَذِّبُ بِيَوْمِ الدِّينِ. These are people who disbelieve on the day of judgment. They disbelieve about the day of judgment. They're kuffar. But they asked, why did you enter the hellfire? They say, we are not amongst the people who are performing Salah. So they're punished for not accepting Islam, and also not for performing what is required of Islam, which is Salah, Zakah, and so on and so forth, also Siyam. So fasting is only accepted from Muslims. There's no khilaf amongst this. The Quran and the Sunnah and the Ijma' are clear upon this. Now the question comes, Ikhwani Fillah, if someone who was a disbeliever, the month of Ramadan, we get many people who accept Islam. Say on the 7th day of Ramadan, we get someone who is 45 years old. They accept Islam. Right, together. They come to the mosque, they say, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. They take an interesting name. They have accepted Islam. Type. Question. Are they required to fast those 6 days they've missed of Ramadan? And those 25, 30 years that passed, are they required? No, they're not required. Because Islam erases everything that came before it. When they became Muslim, everything that they did before has been erased. They are born like new children. They have a fresh slate. Are we together? The next issue, Ikhwani Fillah. And this person who has become a Muslim on the 7th day of Ramadan, are they supposed to fast the remaining 23 days of Ramadan? Yes. Because they're Muslims, they have to follow the pillars of Islam. From amongst the pillars is fasting the month of Ramadan. There's no khilaf on that issue. Type. This issue is a controversial issue. The scholar says, a person who becomes a Muslim for example, they come Dhuhr, they've become a Muslim. Are they supposed to allow to eat the remainder of the day? Because that day is already gone. Or should they keep away from food for the remainder of the day? Have you understood the question? The scholars, he says that this person has to keep away from food for the remainder of the day. Are you together? And this is the madhab that they follow, the Hanabila. Based on this also, they say, for example, a woman who is in her periods, if she becomes pure at 3 p.m. or 10 a.m., for example, 10 a.m. in the morning, they say to her that you have become pure, you cannot eat the remainder of the day. A person who is traveling is allowed to break their fast. Are you together? So they've broken their fast. They arrive to their home destination. So the reason that they're no longer travelers, they've reached the home destination. So the scholars, they say, the Hanabila, they say that they are supposed to respect Ramadan. They cannot eat the remainder of the day. Are you together? But this is not the stronger opinion, and Allah knows best. The stronger opinion is the madhab that we follow in our country, the madhab of Imam Shafi'i and the madhab of Imam Malik. There's no evidence to obligate this person not to eat the remainder of the day. There's no evidence to tell that this woman who is in her periods that she has to not eat the remainder of the day. This lady who in her periods should not leave fasting that day of her own volition or her own will. It was something that the Sharia did not allow her to fast. So she cannot do it. Of course, she has to respect, let her eat in a hidden spot or place or something like that, not to publicize it. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best. Khanifillah, this topic will have a lot of questions. We'll leave the questions, inshallah, maybe for the day after tomorrow. The final issue, or the next issue, he says, حكم إمساك الكافر في باقي اليوم الذي يسلم فيه وقضاء. This is already answered. They are not supposed to, they can eat the remainder of that day. The day they become Muslim today at 1 p.m. You don't tell them stop eating now. Just eat. But tomorrow, fast. But tomorrow, you fast. Are you together? Should they pay this day that they became Muslims? They became Muslim at 1 p.m. Between the time of Fajr until Dhuhr, they were not yet Muslims. But after Dhuhr until Maghrib, they were Muslims. Have you understood the question? Should they pay for this day, today, the day they become Muslims? Yes, no, yes, no. The correct opinion is no, they should not pay for this day. Why? Because when the fast became obligatory for that day, fast becomes obligatory with the Fajr time. They are not yet people of obligation. They are not people whose obligation will have been accepted from them. Are you together? So they are, if it was not obligatory on them at that time, it's the same like the woman who was menstruating, it's the same like the traveler, it's the same as all those cases. They are not supposed to pay for that day that's remaining. And the final issue, Khanifillah, is the issue of a murtad, a person who apostates from Islam. A person says, I'm no longer Muslim. The day he lives Islam, if he lives today's Islam, the fast of this day, it becomes invalid. Later on, if this person makes tawbah, after he makes tawbah, he has to pay for this day that he left. Are you together? What about the 10 years that he's a murtad, he's apostate, he's left Islam? He left Islam in 2010. On the 15th of Ramadan, at 1 p.m., he left Islam. Are you together? 2010. We're right now in 2024. He accepts Islam today. Okay? Are you going to tell him to pay the fast of 2011, 2012, 2013, 14, 15, 16, regardless of the time period? No. Because they were kafir at that time, their fasting was not, they were not called to fast, so they're not supposed to pay. But that particular one day of 15th day of Ramadan, that day they started as Muslims, they have to pay that day in particular. Have you understood the difference? Type. Next time you come with the excess books, inshallah, you're right. No one can memorize everything. So a person, if they leave Islam, their fasting becomes invalid. Why? Because they have broken the first condition. The first condition for your fast to be accepted is the condition of a Muslim. Next, inshallah, tomorrow we shall look at the issue of puberty. A person becomes, or a child, he becomes an adult during the day of Ramadan. He has a wet dream, for example. Or he reaches the age of 15. Or he gets pubic hair. I don't know how pubic hair can come suddenly, but at least the 15-year or the wet dream makes sense. Are you together? So what happens to this young boy? And this is specific to boys, because you can't say girls. Girls have a fourth issue when it comes to their menstruation. But if she menstruates, of course, she will have to sit 6 days and 7 days. Then when she gets pure, she starts fasting Ramadan. But what about this boy? He overslept. After Fajr, he went to sleep. Then at 10 a.m., he had a dream, and he finds his trousers, like he finds them. What happens to this boy? Are you together? We shall look at this issue tomorrow, inshallah. Wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillah rabbil alameen. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.